Hey guys, it's Dr. Elisa Song here with Dr. Joan Rosenberg. I'm hoping that we're on. We've been having some technical difficulties, and I am just trying to make sure that we're on live. So if you guys can see us live and hear us, then let me know. I'm trying to figure out where I am so I can see. Here we go. All right. So I'm on here with Dr. Joan Rosenberg. We are here to talk about emotional mastery for kids and adults, 90 seconds to a life you love. So if you're here, give me a wave, a heart, a thumbs up. We're on here for you. And we have as long as you need. Dr. Joan just graciously said she can stay on and let us know what questions you have. So Kathy, thank you for letting me know that we're on. Sean, thank you. I get a little stressed about tech, so this is great. Okay, so we are here today. This is the day before Valentine's Day, a fitting day to be talking about how to live a life you love. Right? And Dr. Rosenberg just came out, literally published yesterday. I'm so excited. Her book, 90 Seconds to a Life You Love. And let me tell you the entire title because it is just awesome. And I have it right here. I actually have a copy, a PDF copy. I don't have the version in my hands yet, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Joan, can you tell us the full title of the book? It's 90 Seconds to a Life You Love, and what's the tagline?
The tagline is How to Master Your Difficult Feelings to Cultivate Lasting Confidence, Resilience, and Authenticity.
There it is. Look how beautiful the book is. Okay, so as you know, we're going to talk today about how to build emotional mastery, resilience, confidence in our kids. I mean, who doesn't want that? And ourselves too, because so much of what our kids learn, they learn from us. And we really need to be able to model this. And so many children don't have the tools to manage their anxiety and manage their unpleasant feelings, as we'll go into, because we as parents have never really learned to cope, right? And so, you know, if we can learn these techniques, and we're going to talk about what the Rosenberg Reset is, because I think this is going to be such a powerful tool that everyone can benefit from, no matter what age you are, no matter what you've gone through. Linda, you say, I need this. I think we all need this, right? So our kids, hey, Cece and Ava, you guys are here. Our kids and teenagers now are facing an epidemic of anxiety and depression. And, you know, the statistics are so shocking and sad to me. Nowadays, 1 in 3 teenage girls is diagnosed with anxiety. And by the time kids are 18 years of age, half of them are going to be diagnosed with a mental disorder. And that is unacceptable. Unacceptable in this, you know, in this society where we have so much and yet we don't know how to cope. And sadly, our number one coping mechanism is avoidance and distraction and just trying to shove everything under the rug. And so we're going to talk with Dr. Joan today about what other things we can do, right? So give us a heart or a sad face, a thumbs up if you or your child or someone you know is struggling with anxiety or depression. And you know, let us know how we can help you. Let us know your questions about the struggles you've had in managing anxieties and worries, or helping your children through them. And if you want to learn a healthy way to manage your feelings and, you know, come out with confidence and resilience, give us a heart and tag a friend, you know, tag your partner, tag anyone you know who could benefit. And in fact, what I'm going to do right now is actually share this to the Thriving Child Community Facebook group. I'm going to share it to the Everyday Holistic Pediatrics group. I'm going to share it to my timeline, because I want everyone to have this incredible information. So before we begin, let me tell you about how incredible Dr. Joan is. Dr. Joan Rosenberg, she's a cutting-edge psychologist. She lives not too far from me down in Southern California, and I have the amazing honor and pleasure to see her about every few months, right, Joan? we belong to the same sort of mastermind health meeting. I'm going to see her again in May. I miss Joan in February during our meeting. But she is a best-selling author, a 2-time TEDx speaker. And if you saw the newsletter that I sent out, or the email, or the Facebook post and Instagram post that I did about her TEDx talk, Emotional Mastery, the Gifted Wisdom of Unpleasant Feelings, that she did in Santa Barbara, take a listen to that. It'll give you a taste of what you're going to see in the 90 Seconds to a Life You Love. And it's so powerful. So I'm going to put a link to that for you if you haven't heard her TEDx talk. So Dr. Rosenberg has been featured in a ton of different documentaries, including I Am, The Miracle Mindset with our good friend and colleague, JJ Virgin, Pursuing Happiness, and The Hidden Epidemic. She speaks on how to build confidence, emotional strength, resilience, achieving emotional, conversational, and relationship mastery, when we all love that, integrating neuroscience and psychotherapy. And her latest book, 90 Seconds to a Life You Love, How to Master Your Difficult Feelings to Cultivate Lasting Confidence, Resilience, and Authenticity, just came out hot off the presses yesterday, February 12th, and I'm going to have a link to run and get that book too on Amazon. So, and the other thing I didn't realize, Joan, I mean, you learn something new every day, right? I didn't realize that you were an Air Force veteran. So tell me about that experience.
Yeah, well, I did 3 years of active duty and 7 years of reserve duty in the Air Force, and I as you have to do a residency for med school, I had to do a residency for psychology, which is a year in length. So I did a year of that as an intern in the Air Force, and then ostensibly you're obligated. I did it as paid by them for my internship, and then I was obligated to return 2 years active duty. I did that, and then when I moved out to California, I did 7 years of reserve duty. Right. So yeah, I'm truly not, believe it or not, I am an Air Force veteran. Yes, on top of everything else.
A wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge. So Cheryl just writes, I'm just trying to make sure I keep on top of questions. Cheryl wrote that Facebook is just not working for her. And so I'm just wondering, guys, give me another thumbs up or heart if you can still hear us or see us, because I want to make sure that we don't have any technical difficulties going on. So hi, Luz. Okay, so we have so much to talk about. So what I want to really start with, and going through Joan's book, one of the first things that Dr. Rosenberg talks about is really the key to building confidence. And this is really the key to building, thanks guys for letting us know that we're still on, the key to building confidence for kids and adults. So what would you say is that key?
If I boil it down to just one sentence, I believe that confidence develops when you have the deep sense that you can handle whatever emotional outcome occurs based on whatever you're pursuing. Yeah. So it's the deep sense that it doesn't matter what happens emotionally, you're going to be able to handle it, and that there's I name it. It's really more towards the end of the book, but I talk about 6 major ways that I think that we develop confidence, and we can go through each individually, but the essence of it is that we can handle the emotional outcome.
Right. And that means, right, it doesn't mean that we're always, number one. It doesn't mean that we're always top of the class. It doesn't mean that we necessarily get that promotion, right? It's just whatever happens, we can handle it.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And the reality is I talk about the idea of emotional strength too. And what I want people to be able to do, and I'll probably dig into it more when we get into, I think you want us to cover the reset, the Rosenberg Reset. The essence of it is that many of us, when we go through life and we pursue things, we're met with disappointments and frustrations and things not working out the way that we want, or sometimes the way that we need. And if we kind of collapse under the weight of that, it's much harder for us in life. Then we develop certain kinds of negative attitudes, or we start to feel like we have a dark cloud over our head, or that the sense of hopelessness, that things are never going to, the ship is never going to be righted, and we're never going to do things the way we want. But if we have the sense that we can handle the emotional part of it, then we actually hold a better attitude, and we're able to be more resilient and feel more emotionally strong. So again, for me, it's not the thing. It's not just the emotional stuff, because our thinking is important too. But I think that that people actually struggle more with the emotional part than they do with the thinking part.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, when we think about really how we, as I know I do this as a mom too, and one of my first instincts when the kids are upset about something or disappointed or frustrated or really angry about something is to say, oh, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. And then try to distract them with something else. Right. And so
Right.
it's so uncomfortable for us to see our kids suffering. But, I think in your book and really what you teach is that it's really these sort of unpleasant feelings that we go through and live through and come out the other end successfully. That's what builds ultimate sort of happiness, confidence, resilience, emotional strength, right?
Yes, yes. And yeah, and you're so spot on. You're on two, but you're naming actually two really important threads. That is, of course, we don't want to see our children suffer. That's a no-brainer on that one, right? Except if we don't teach them how to handle what it is that they're going through that's upsetting to them. Those are the people that I see in adulthood in my practice, right?
Yeah.
That it's because they've never learned. There's a phrase in psychology called frustration tolerance. They've never learned how to tolerate the frustration or to tolerate the disappointment or to tolerate the anger or the sadness or the whatever that comes out of things not working out the way they want it to work out.
Yep.
But that's one thread of it. So the reason why it's so important then for us as adults to be able to manage those states within ourselves, or I should say, we need to be able to manage those states within ourselves first, so we can actually be more responsive to our children. And I'm hearing an echo, by the way.
I was making sure that I had my phone on to answer questions.
All right, cool. Okay, great. Okay, cool. But it's to make sure that that when we're able to manage our state for ourselves and are more emotionally present and feel better about handling the unpleasant feelings within ourselves, then we can be more empathic with our kids and actually guide them to handle that for themselves.
Yeah, that's so true, and it's one of the what. So let me ask you something that I actually just hadn't thought about asking before. But I mean, why is it so hard to handle these unpleasant feelings? I mean, obviously we don't like to feel uncomfortable, but what is it that really it seems instinctual to run away from?
Well, the truth of the matter is that if we look at the literature, the neuroscience literature, the suggestion is that we actually feel the unpleasant feelings because they're there for protective purposes. But they're not comfortable and they're not comfortable at a body level. So if I can kind of walk us a little bit into the reset, a little backwards here, but it's fine. What my point of view and what dawned on me in this kind of developing the whole approach that I'm talking about in the book is that I wrestled with that very question. What is it that makes it so uncomfortable for us to deal with those unpleasant feelings? And then what neuroscience started to describe, and a woman named Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor made an observation about in her work, she's a neuroscientist, was that when feelings fire off in our brain, what ends up happening is that there's a rush of biochemicals that goes into our bloodstream. And that rush of biochemicals activates bodily sensations. And it's those bodily sensations that help us know what we're feeling emotionally. So the thing that one of the most important things here to understand is that most of us come to know what we're feeling emotionally by how we feel it in our body first.
Yeah.
And like within nanoseconds, we have a word for it. So you can think of the heat coming into your cheeks when you're embarrassed, or into your chest when you're embarrassed, or you can think of like putting your hands like this clenched when you're angry, or that your jaw gets tight when you're angry, or a client used to say that, or she'd get heat at the back of her neck, or another one a heat in their arms when they were angry. So that we have our own cues, and it's very unique to each of us. but the key is that's what makes it so uncomfortable. That's what dawned on me. It's not that we don't want to feel the whole range of what we feel, both pleasant and unpleasant. We don't want to feel the bodily sensation that helps us know what we're feeling emotionally. And that's what's so uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that is, so that when you and I were talking about this, I don't know, maybe sometime last year, I mean, that was just so powerful. It really, just thinking about, well, not just how I feel, right? Because we can say, well, oh, I'm sad or
Right.
I'm angry, but how does my body feel in that moment? And, you asked me, I don't remember which feeling we were talking about, but you asked me how I feel. And it was so hard for me to reflect on what my body was feeling. Because you're right. It's just in that second we've
Right.
learned, okay, frustration feels like this, but I haven't pinpointed it. Is it in my throat or is it in my, and I realized, you know what, when I am frustrated, I get this tightness in my throat, right? And that's what frustration feels like to me. And I feel like I'm just literally kind of choking on my words, right? But I think if we can identify that and then even somehow kind of reframe our language when we're talking with our kids about how do you feel and get them more in tune with not just their brain, but what their body's feeling, that could be so powerful.
Right. In fact, I talk in the book, there's an exercise in the book called the how, what, where of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can literally go through there, you can literally walk through that exercise and sense the experience that you have with each of the, and I would say, and I talk about 8 feelings, but with each of those 8 feelings that are unpleasant. And if you start to get a gauge on where your body feels it, that's a measure of a tool, if you will, for being able to manage your state more effectively, where then you become less reactive and you actually become more responsive. You're less impulsive and actually more thoughtful about how you want to approach what you're going through, much less approach what your children might be going through.
Well, and that's, I love that it really is the art of being truly, truly mindful, right? I mean, when we think about mindfulness, it's really paying attention to what your brain is thinking at that time, what your heart is feeling, what your body is sensing, and using all of your senses. But if we can really bring our focus back to that, right? It's true. We can pause before we act. Right. So
in fact, when I talk about anger or the things that we get mostly lit up about and so excited about, is never to speak, especially when you're angry, is never to speak when it's here, ever. You only want to keep your mouth shut when it's up here, right? Or when it's on the road. Wait until you're over here and you're past and you're through to open your mouth to say something. So, and that has to do with kind of that flood of biochemicals in the bloodstream, because they also dissipate in a very short period of time. And that's tied to the title of the book.
Yeah. So before we go into that, I'd love to hear from you guys listening. As Dr. Joan and I are thinking about this, how have you guys literally felt your feelings, right? Your unpleasant feelings. And this would be a perfect time to go over, Dr. Joan mentioned these 8 unpleasant feelings. So what are those 8 unpleasant feelings?
Right. So the whole way of dealing with this is centered on a formula that a colleague so graciously called the Rosenberg Reset. So it wasn't my name for it. I actually borrowed his name for what I was doing, but it seemed to fit, and I just that's what it's called in the book. So it's a little formulaic. So think 1 choice, 8 feelings, 90 seconds. And the one choice, the key here is awareness, not avoidance. So my goal is to have people choose into being in touch with, aware of, and in touch with as much of their moment-to-moment experience as they can. We can't do that 24/7, but when we are, we kind of snap back into those moments of awareness. It's like, stay there. And when you know that you're reacting to something, be intentional about being more present at those points. So choose into awareness, not avoidance. Avoidance takes us down a really kind of a difficult path.
And
so
one
that's
thing
one choice.
I don't mean to interrupt you,
Please.
but there's this fascinating study that I read. It's an older study, but this idea of choosing awareness, and you have in your book, it's one sentence: choose awareness, not avoidance as your approach to life, right? And that is, that is so simple yet so challenging, right? Because it really has to be a choice. It has to be a conscious choice to stay aware and remain aware. And this one study, it was a Harvard study that looked at, really how often our mind wanders. And, there's only about maybe 46% of the time that our mind is actually focused on the thing that we're doing, and half the time our mind is somewhere else, thinking about the grocery shopping list, or thinking about the argument we had last night, or thinking about whatever it is, but everything else but what we're doing in that moment. So this really, for us, it's hard as adults, right, to choose that awareness. Think about how hard it is for a kid. He's got so many things going on in the brain, but we really, really need to model that, choose it, and help our kids choose that.
Right. And again, it's, even if it's not the finely tuned, staying focused on the task at hand, it's the general approach of, I want to be more aware and awake as to what's going on for me, than avoid what's going on for me as an adult. And then, of course, the upshot would be then to guide a child in the same way. That it's just that we'll have more moments of awakeness and more moments of awareness than we do being kind of asleep at our own life, if you will.
I love that. Okay, so one choice, choosing awareness instead of avoidance.
One choice, awareness. Right, exactly. The second are the 8 feelings. And the whole book is centered around managing 8 unpleasant feelings and how they relate to confidence, how it relates to difficulty speaking up, how it relates to anxiety, how it relates to resilience, the whole thing. So the 8 feelings are sadness.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a
shame,
little feedback, but okay. Sorry about that. The 8 feelings.
Okay. The 8 feelings
Joan, are
are
you
sadness. Here? Yep.
Oh, no.
I can hear you.
I cannot hear you anymore. Let me see what just happened. Okay. Sorry about that. The 8 feelings. Are you here, Joan?
I'm here.
Okay, great. I'm so sorry. Now I can hear you.
Mhm.
Something happened on my end. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sure I interrupted Dr. Joan in like a really critical point. So do you mind, Joan?
Oh, but I'll come back. No, it's embedded in my brain, so I'll be right with you. It's all right. No worries. The 8 feelings are sadness, shame, helplessness, anger, vulnerability, embarrassment, disappointment, and frustration. And so I didn't include things like inadequate, unworthy, undeserving, because I don't see those as feelings. Even though people might describe them that way, I don't see them that way. And I didn't include others for a variety, of other reasons. But again, why these 8 is because they're the most, it's the thing, I thought about it from an everyday experience that people have and the way people talk about what they go through. And so the reason I selected these 8 is, again, because they're the most common feeling reactions to things not turning out the way that we need or turning out the way that we want. That's why these 8. So you can think about going and ask somebody for a date. You can think of a child being excluded from a play date. You can think of a child trying to develop a skill and having a hard time developing a skill. You can think of your own experiences with an employer. It doesn't matter. We can go all up and down the line of all the different kinds of experiences. And more often than not, the upshot in terms of if something is not working out the way you want, it's going to be one or more of those 8 feelings.
Okay, so I have, Joan, before we continue, I have Heather and Kelly asking if we could repeat those 8 unpleasant feelings.
Absolutely. Sadness, shame, helplessness, anger, vulnerability, embarrassment, disappointment, and frustration.
And I'm going to write, I am writing this right now in the comments, so it'll be there. And at the end of our talk, I'm going to put all these up in the video description so you have all of that. But I just want to repeat this again because Heather and Kelly wanted to have it on their mind before we go on to the next step.
Great. Thank you.
You.
Thank you, Heather. That's great. That's great. So, so with the choice of being aware as opposed to avoiding, and now we have the 8 feelings. And the goal really with those 8 feelings is to acknowledge them, to accept them, and to trust them. That's what we want you to do with it, or that's what I want you to do with it. And then the 90 seconds part, which is the third part of the formula, is tied to that rush of biochemicals that floods through our bloodstream. So again, just to kind of put it all together, when a feeling fires off into the brain, you're going to get this rush of biochemicals into the bloodstream that activates bodily sensations. And those bodily sensations help you know what you're feeling. I realize I'm repeating myself here, but it's those bodily sensations that help you know what you're feeling emotionally. And it's those bodily sensations that we don't want to feel. That's what we try to avoid. Mm-hmm. So the key here is to understand that rush of biochemicals is also going to flush out of your bloodstream in roughly 90 seconds. Mm. And again, that was the observation of Dr. Bolte Taylor. So I'm borrowing from her work and her observation to include in what I've done here. And so what I want you to do is to think of the bodily sensations as waves, if you will, the feelings as waves, and what you're doing is kind of it's waves of bodily sensations. So if you can ride the wave, so think of surfing or boogie boarding or in a canoe, I don't care how you do it, but I want you to just develop the notion that what you have to do, or what would be best to do, is to simply ride the wave, the 90-second wave or waves, so it's one or more waves, of whatever the bodily sensation / emotional feeling is. And if you can stay present to that, that's where the magic starts to happen. It's the foundation of everything that ultimately will lead to confidence and you being able to create a life you love.
And, I love this idea. When I heard your TEDx talk, which again, I'm going to put the link to Dr. Joan's TEDx talk from Santa Barbara, but you talk about the wave after wave, right? But there's always waves, and waves always end, right? And sometimes it can be so hard to trust that it's going to end. But, can you talk to us about what you do if you feel like the waves aren't going to end?
Well, I think there's a myth there, so that we don't feel stuff because we think it's going to be too intense. We don't want to feel stuff because we think we're going to be flooded by it and it's going to overwhelm us. We don't want to feel stuff because, to your point, we think it's never going to end. And the truth is that feelings are temporary. The body needs to get back to its own kind of I like to think of allostatic state as opposed to a homeostatic state, but it wants to get back to a stable resting place. Mm-hmm. So that wave is not going to continue. You need to understand that feelings are temporary. But here's the kicker. And again, there's a section on the book that I talk about lingering feelings. One of the reasons it feels like it lingers to you, because the reaction people always have is, oh, come on, right? That's only going to last a short time. Feelings last for days, weeks, months, or years for me. But it's actually not true. It might feel that way. Mm-hmm. But it's, in this case, it's you're thinking about them. Either you're thinking or you're thinking about given memories that keeps on reactivating the same feeling states. It's like so it's, if you've got that memory, it's going to pull everything along with it. And there are the feelings that were attached to those memories are right there again. So part of the reason it feels, I think I list 3. One of the reasons it feels like feelings just linger and they don't stop is because we keep thinking about the same doggone thing and we never get a result. So
how do we do that then? You talk about really, riding this wave, and then what's at the end of the wave? What do we do? How do we help ourselves or our kids kind of get over that wave and complete the cycle?
Okay. So with kids, again, with yourself and also with kids, I would say there's a number of different things here. And let's see if I can capture all the thoughts running through my head. The first is as a parent, you want to stay present to it within yourself. You want to teach your child how to ride the wave. So what you want them to do is to start to notice how, what, and where in their bodies they feel the unpleasant bodily sensation that is attached to the emotional feeling that they're using the word, you're either helping provide the word for, or that they're using the word for. So a kid is stomping their feet in the middle of the grocery store, they're stomping their feet, they know that they're angry and frustrated about something, and it's not just letting off steam about something else. And you say, you get down on their level and you say, oh, something's really hard for you right now. And if you start to use the language of anger, or you start to use the language of frustration, or whatever it might be in the moment when you're there with the child, you're going to be able to read your child obviously better than I can from sitting right here. Then you use that language to help them be able to put words to the body state and the emotional state that they're in. So that's one of the things that you start to do. Then the key here is that the feelings are going to stop. So you can say this is going to pass. Help them ride the wave, and help them understand it's just a matter of riding the wave, and that it will pass. And if they can stay present to the feeling, or a parent can stay present to the feeling, in general, my experience is that's when insights start to come. Or we start to do one, if the insights aren't there, well, the insight actually can be reflected in a couple different ways. And again, I don't mean to be too zen about this, Elisa, but the doing with the feeling is actually being with the feeling. So the doing is in the being. If we stay present to the feeling and we actually ride the waves through, we often get insights, and then the insight leads to, oh, wait a minute, I need to make a decision to do X, Y, or Z. Or the insight would lead me to go, oh, you know what, I need to express myself. Or the third might be, I need to go take a particular kind of action. So for an adult, definitely, I think those things happen. With the child, when you're helping them move through the state, the most important thing you can do for that child is to name it for them, or to name it with them. Yeah. Because I can't officially declare it, but I'll say my clinical observations over the years is that when any one of us feels heard, and that's a child under 20 and a child over 20 years old. So, you get the drift on that one. Yep. Yes. That when we hear words that say, oh, that must have really hurt, or I can see that makes you so sad, or oh, that's frustrating not to be able to learn it as quickly as you want, that it calms, responding to what I call the feeling first, and I talk about it in the book too, responding to the feeling first calms somebody's nervous system down. And we start to feel heard and understood, and in important ways. So what a parent can do for a child is to say those words to the child, is to move towards the unpleasantness and to say those words to a child, so that now they can go, oh yeah, I've been recognized, it's true for me, and now I can calm down about it because someone knows. Yeah. So powerful. But then, so this is actually a question for myself too, because, in that moment when we see our child getting frustrated or angry, or disappointed with something, and it's often because of something that we've set a limit on, right? Like, they can't have a cookie before dinner. And so then that we in that moment might also be really angry or frustrated or disappointed about the situation. So how do we navigate that as a parent trying to help their child, but also having these similar feelings and bodily sensations rush through? Well, again, I think that part of that's going to depend on the nature of the exchange, but where there may be times where it's important for you to have the reaction and keep it internally, and you go, all right, and I've had different people who've read the material go, I just got to sit with this, and mentally they're going, I got to sit with this for 90 seconds, 90 seconds, 90 seconds. What? But they're using something. I got to stay with the wave, just ride the wave, And so so internally you're staying present to your own reaction, but not splashing it on the child.
Yeah.
And that there may be times that it's important to just do that. There may be other times in terms of guiding your child where actually expressing your feeling becomes more relevant and more important. So that if it's the cookie thing, and it's more simple, it's less complex. It might be, you know what, it's really kind of frustrating that we have to go over, for me, when we have to go over this 4 times or 10 times, when you actually know the way we do this. So I know you want it, and I know you don't want to hear the answer I'm giving you, but just understand it's having it. You're not listening to me is having an impact on me. So I would say that there's 2 real key responses to that. One, sometimes you need to be keeping to yourself and working on it so you don't dump it on the child. And then the other, where it's actually appropriate it's a learning moment between you and your child.
Yeah. Well, and I love that, you know, some of your clients kind of repeat that mantra, right? It's just 90 seconds. I could do it for 90 seconds because, you know, when you think about 90 seconds is, you know, it's really like the blink of an eye. It's not that long. And, you know, we can say, oh, you can do anything for 90 seconds, except 90 seconds can feel like an eternity, right? I mean, I was just thinking about, you know, the first Earth.
But the truth is that most times it doesn't even last 90 seconds.
Yeah.
The big caveat that I would have to all of this is that I'm talking about everyday kinds of reactions, right? I'm not talking about trauma, and I'm not talking about tragedy. So that where there's been those kinds of experiences, we're talking about a different level of being able to respond to how those memories encode in the brain. So I'm not talking about those reactions per se. But so when we're having everyday reactions, most of them don't even last anywhere near 90 seconds.
Yeah. I am seeing a little pause here. Okay, great. I saw a little tech glitch. So I want to make sure this is still working.
Okay.
Guys, I am just wanting to make sure. Okay, so let me see. Please, again, I apologize. So again, give me a heart if you guys can see us and hear us, because on my screen we're frozen and I can hear Dr. Joan, but I don't want you guys to miss any of this. Okay, so I'm just going to keep talking away and until I hear otherwise. So, okay, so let's go through this Rosenberg reset, right? 1 choice to choose awareness instead of avoidance.
Yep.
8 unpleasant feelings, right, that we acknowledge, and then riding this 90-second wave, right?
Right.
Do I have that right?
Right. Yeah, you got it. So yes, 1 choice, awareness, not avoidance. 8 feelings: sadness, shame, helplessness, anger, vulnerability, embarrassment, disappointment, frustration. And then 90 seconds, it's riding 1 or more waves of unpleasant feeling. Yes, and that's the Rosenberg reset.
So let's talk about how we might apply that to anxiety, because, you know, we have, I mean, so many children, so many teenagers have anxiety, and they're being diagnosed with actual anxiety disorder. So many kids, even at young ages, are being put on anxiety medications. And, you know, I just saw a movie that played in our local high school called Angst, about this epidemic of anxiety in teenagers. So how can we help our kids and ourselves? I see so many parents with anxiety really handle that better, and even, you know, have less of it in their lives.
You know, I have a whole different point of view around this. So if you'll bear with, I don't mean to be provocative, but if I am, I guess I have to live with that. But what I'd like to do in answer to your question, Elisa, is to walk through how I see fear and anxiety differently, and how I think both of those words are misused, and then walk us through kind of how I apply it.
I would love that.
And again, in the book, okay.
Yeah.
So
that.
the first thing to understand is that I think that both the word fear and the word anxiety are misused. Are you hearing me okay?
I am.
Okay. All right. Cool. So fear is danger in the moment right now. So think you're being faced down by a lion or a tiger. That's danger in the moment right now. and most of us then are not in situations of fear, even though we might use the word fear. Like, I'm afraid of public speaking.
Yeah.
Or, I want to go on stage and play my guitar. I want to go out for the team or the pom-pom squad or whatever it might be. But I'm afraid to do my recital, whatever it is, right? Fear is the wrong word in that situation because there's no danger in the moment right now. So what I'd love for parents, both adults and parents, to do is to stop using the wrong word. And so the most obvious next word to consider would be the word anxiety, because the anxiety is diffuse apprehension of the future, which makes more sense. Like, if I'm going to go do the recital in front of all the 400 people in the audience, I'm gonna have some apprehension that something, in most cases, people think something bad is going to happen. So it's like, but typically there's a thinking error there because we're only going towards the bad that's going to happen as opposed to the good that might come of it. But that's a separate issue entirely. But my thinking around it is that we should take it one step further. That's also misusing the word. And my thinking is that we should use the word vulnerable or vulnerability instead. So that, and my experience is when I tell people that, they have a whole different emotional body reaction when they take it out of using the word anxiety and instead they use the word feeling vulnerable. So, and what do I mean by vulnerability? The vulnerability is we could be hurt. And in the book, I talk about two different kinds of vulnerability, but the whole notion of vulnerability is we could be hurt. So then playing that recital in front of 400 people means I could be hurt. So the more obvious thing to say is I feel vulnerable. And if it's not vulnerability, my experience more than across the board is more. So it's more often than not is that if it's not vulnerability, it's one or more of the other 7 feelings that someone's feeling, and they're just not allowing themselves to feel it. So let's say you and I can stop there.
No, I think that's great because when you think about those 8 unpleasant feelings, that what we would then think of as anxiety would really be vulnerability. And that makes total sense, right? Because when we're anxious about something, what are we anxious of? You're right. We're not afraid, but we worry that we're going to be hurt or that something is going to happen, or we worry about something else, like we're worried that we're going to be embarrassed, or we worry that we're going to be, feel helpless on stage, right? So then that makes total sense to name it the actual feeling that it is.
Right. So 2 key points for me here. One is then we can think in general that when we're talking about anxiety is a cover for the 8 unpleasant feelings. And the first one to consider when you use the word anxious is, am I feeling vulnerable? Am I concerned that I'm going to get hurt? And if it's not vulnerability, then the next thing to do is to consider whether one or more of the other 7 feelings are present. So whether it's about embarrassment or disappointment or sadness or anger or something like that. And we're covering that. I tell a story about 2 graduate students in the book that when I actually, because they described themselves as feeling so anxious, and when I said, if I took all the words for anxiety away from you, what would you really be feeling? Ultimately, one came down to sadness and the other was anger. And here's the other piece of it, and Elisa, and that is that not only can we consider it the cover for the 8 unpleasant feelings, you can also look at anxiety as unexperienced and unexpressed feeling. So what was happening for those 2 students is that they were feeling sad and they were feeling angry, but they also, not only were they not letting themselves feel the truth of that, they were also then not expressing it to the people that needed to hear it.
Yeah.
And so where does all that energy go? It goes it goes inside, and then we call it anxious.
Yeah.
So the key to handling anxiety is to be able to experience and move through those 8 unpleasant feelings. Or if you're vulnerable, it's to be able to experience and move through the other 7 unpleasant feelings and that's how you handle your vulnerability.
Hmm.
Is
That's
this making sense?
It totally makes sense. And I love that kind of reframing, because I feel like the word anxiety is thrown around so much. And, I hear it from kids all the time. I'm anxious about this, or, I'm afraid of that. And so I think reframing it for them so that they can actually identify and be more aware and mindful of what they're actually feeling, right, is
Right.
that alone is so powerful. And then taking a step further and being able to really go through the Rosenberg Reset, right? It's even better. So I mean, I
Right.
love that.
No, but it's understanding that oh shoot, I just lost my thought. It had to do with allowing. Give me a moment here, because I want to capture the thought for you that the I'll have to come back to it. Sorry.
That's okay.
It just poof. It'll come.
Well, that might be a good place to take this one question from Kristen, who writes, where does panic fall? Because she and her son both have acute panic attacks.
I would ask the same questions. So the first question I would be inclined to ask you, Kristen, is, do you allow yourself to experience the 8 unpleasant feelings? And so that's the first question you should ask yourself. And if you're not, then the first step would be to allow yourself to be more present to them, because oftentimes I think panic attacks are actually a way to, again, it's a distraction away from the unpleasant feeling states. So the two important questions: do you allow yourself to experience and move through those 8 unpleasant feelings? And are you a person that opens herself and is expressive of unpleasant feelings when it's important to do that with the people in your life? Unpleasant feelings or unpleasant knowings?
Now, one thing you said just kind of bring about for another thing that I really want to talk about was this idea that we can distract ourselves from these unpleasant feelings, and we're all, I'm sure, very good at that. But yes. In today's day and age, where distractions are so much more with social media and with screen time, and that sort of disconnectedness that our kids have with their peers, and even with us as parents and family members. So what are your thoughts on that, and how much that's fueling our ability or inability to kind of work through and develop confidence and resilience?
Well, I don't think people are going to develop confidence and resilience in terms of a life skill interacting with technology. They'll develop a skill and maybe a sense of mastery over a particular skill, but it will never replace face-to-face and heart-to-heart contact. And I really think that we need way more face-to-face and heart-to-heart contact. And a lot of the reasons people shift over to any number of distractions, kind of social media or technology or TV or screens or whatever it might be, as ways to distract. And again, those are just a couple ways. People can use drugs to any kind of substance to distract. They can use eating to distract. They can use shopping to distract. They can. I mean, I can go on.
Oh yeah, and I've probably done all of those.
Well, it's all right. But in fact, chapter 4 is a whole list of distractions. So there's probably 30 distractions I list, but the reason I can list them is because that's how many people are using them, right? Yeah. It's not, I just make them up. It's because that's how people are running their lives. But again, it's this whole thing. It's to not to stay present to what's really going on for us. And so if I don't want to deal with feeling disappointed about something, maybe I go eat, or maybe I go shop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that would actually be
or
really
get on the phone.
Yeah, and so that would be really important for each of us to recognize what distraction techniques we use, right? That don't even allow us to go through any of those feelings.
Right.
I can think of a whole bunch.
So again, it's the degree to which we, on a day-to-day basis or moment-to-moment basis, we choose to be more awake and aware, or as opposed to being in that distracted or avoiding state. I will say, over time, if people stay in that avoidance, then things don't go well. People do get what we would describe then as more anxious, and then I think it ultimately leads, and I make mention of it in the book. It ultimately leads to what I call soulful depression. I wouldn't consider it a real depression. I think it's the depression of us cutting off from ourselves, from the truth of who we are. But as soon as we start to reclaim that, we get this lift, and it starts to move us down a confident path.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, one of the words that I hear a lot in sort of parent education meetings and, school newsletters is, the whole idea of building resilience in our kids, grit, resilience. I mean, whatever you want to call it, right? So, and you talk about sort of the path to learning resilience. So can you tell us as parents, how do we help our children to develop that resilience that we want them to have for the rest of their lives?
Yeah. So a great question. Think of resilience as, and I'm not sure if this is a word, as learnable. It's teachable. we can learn it, and so that it's not that it's necessarily innate. I think but we are capable of learning it. So to me, that's the great news. And the first place I would start again is, can you experience and move through these 8 unpleasant feelings? Because I think that when you can, or when one can, an adult or a child, then what they start to feel is that they feel more capable in the world. Literally, there's a sense of, I can do this. And you can think of confidence as kind of the sense of can-do-itiveness, right? It's like, I can do this, because I can handle the emotional outcome if it doesn't work out. So, but then it's adopting attitudes that can make a huge difference in staying the course on something, and that really then allows us to. The resilience is this idea of kind of bouncing back. And so that if we hold certain attitudes or certain beliefs, it can make a big difference. And again, I think I list like 18 or 20 different things that we can do. But one, let me just name a couple because they're so important. One is understanding that change is the constant. So that what I want people to help develop, and this is again this is the kinds of things we're going to be teaching our children, is that to be flexible and adaptive in the face of change, and not always want something to stay the same. Right? We have to deal with the sadness of things not staying the same. A child grows up, for God's sake, right? It's that there's always change. There is never not change. So having the attitude that change is the constant, and we need to be flexible and adaptive in the face of that change. That's one attitude. A second is to adopt a curious and an open approach to life. So instead of kind of going like this and not wanting to be hit by life and feeling like life is doing something to us, instead what we do is we go into life going, I'm going to be curious and open about whatever I'm experiencing, and to be willing. Another attitude then is to be willing to learn from every experience. So even if it's something going not the way I want, then I'm willing to learn from that. And then there's others, like asking for help is a way to be resilient. Believing in something bigger than yourself is a way to be resilient. Having faith is a way to be resilient. So there's lots of different ways to do that, and if somebody can literally just kind of go across that checklist and figure that out for themselves.
That's great. That's a checklist I think every parent wants, right?
Right. So what you want to do is, as an adult, as a parent, you want to nurture those kinds of attitudes and beliefs in yourself. And then as you're raising your child, you want to help them learn those same kinds of attitudes and beliefs.
I mean, there are just so many pearls, and I wish I could. I mean, I'm taking furious notes, but guys, this is all in Dr. Rosenberg's book that just came out yesterday, 90 Seconds to a Life You Love. And that's why I have Dr. Joan on today, because you can get your hands on the book and everything that we go through. I mean, it's just, there's so many amazing little like golden nuggets that I'm gleaning from today's interview. And I know, and I'm going to be listening to this over and over again, but again, if you take a look at her book, I mean, they're the checklist, right? The different ways we can distract ourselves, the different ways, the different attitude shifts that we can have to build resilience in ourselves and our kids. So it really, Joan, your book is the book that I want every single parent to have, and, to read for themselves and read for their kids and read with their kids, because these are tools that we really need, I mean, all the time. And I feel like in this day and age, we need them even more. And so to be able to understand how to be connected, not just with each other, but connected to ourselves, right, is I think the biggest gift that that your book is really telling us to prioritize, right? Because we're in such a rush, and we don't take time to sit and reflect. So that is just, it's so key. And I love how mindfulness is something that's really, everyone talks about mindfulness. Not everyone really knows what that is, but in your book, you discuss this idea of being mindful and present in our own bodies and with our own feelings and our own bodily sensations, in a way that's so easy to understand and accessible.
Great. Thank you. Oh my God. I'm so touched. Elisa, thank you. Sometimes I think about what I'm doing as mindfulness applied. Mm-hmm. So to be mindful is to have the awareness absent the awareness of the present moment, absent judgment. And that's great. And it's super important. Except I think that part of what I've done with some of the work is then to say, and here's how you apply it in your life. So that this is, now you have the awareness. It's like now you can kind of go do something with the awareness. Yeah. So that's
I mean, because that's what we as busy adults, busy parents, busy kids, I mean, that's what we need. We don't need just the theory. It's in theory, of course, we'd love to be more mindful, but how do you do it? And how do you really, break it down? And you have in your book, sections with different questions that we should sit and reflect on and really go through, in really kind of workbook and exercise format, so we can understand how to apply this.
Right. Yes. I think go ahead.
Oh, no.
I was just gonna say that I think there's like 14 journal prompts and like 20 different exercises. So I put there's a lot in there. But people need to understand that what they're getting is the coalescing of my ideas over at least 25 years of my life. So so that's what the book represents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the doing that's going to make it happen, right? And it's going to help us really stay, mindful when we need it. So, what's down the road for you, in terms of, how do we keep following your work? And, this is your life's work. It's amazing. And I want every mom and dad and grandparent and teacher, practitioner to have it. But what else can we look forward to with Dr. Joan Rosenberg?
Well, it's so sweet for you to ask. I'll be developing a program that's centered around the book. So one thing is that, and my goal is to have that out in a few months. And also down the road, which shouldn't fall too much farther past that, would be some kind of probably a documentary or some kind of hour-long program that the goal is to actually have aired on PBS. The other is that, Elisa, I want to get the word out to as many people. So speaking is literally getting up in front of people and saying, hey, let me share this information so that you have it. And can be able to use it in the way that you're describing. The other thing is my desire to go ahead and speak in front of groups or whatever it might be. So I would anticipate those kinds of things as well. And there's a Facebook group called Love Your Life,
Mm,
that once people get the book, that they can become part of that. I'll be on that, uh,
great.
and they can find me anywhere on social media, mostly under probably Dr. Joan Rosenberg. So Twitter is at Dr. Joan Rosenberg. I think Instagram is Dr. Joan Rosenberg. Facebook is Dr. J Rosenberg, or the Love Your Life thing. And then my website is drjoanrosenberg.com. So they can all that they can find me kind of.
And guys, don't furiously write this down, because I'm going to put all these up in the video description as soon as we're done. I'm gonna have you. I'm going to write down every single way that you can keep in touch with Dr. Joan, and I can't wait to hop into the Love Your Life Facebook group right after this.
Oh, cool, cool. Can I, before we stop, I realize there's a couple things that that I wanted to say that around parenting that also might
Please
add.
do. Totally.
Are you, okay.
Yeah, I want to hear it all. I think Kenzie and Bodhi will benefit immensely from this.
Okay. Well, one of it has to do with, and it might sound a little bit more stereotypical, but one of the things, along with, there's a section in the speaking chapter where I talk about this idea of feelings first. So in terms of your response as a parent to a child, if a child is in big feeling mode, respond to them with feelings, right? Don't try to be logical at a time when they're being emotional. It doesn't, it's like crossing wires, and it's just going to go. So the thing is that when a child is being emotional, do what I call respond to feelings first. I mentioned it a little earlier, but I want to highlight that, because that's what allows a child to feel understood, and that's what calms them down, or will help calm them down. And it'll help them learn how to self-soothe ultimately, which is a goal for you as a parent. That's one thing. The second is you want to be using a language for feeling. So if you're not good at expressing feelings, or experiencing feelings, nor expressing feelings, my encouragement is for you as a parent, then start to develop that skill within yourself, because the more you do that for yourself, the more you're able to be empathic and respond in those really warm, appropriate ways with your child. And when you do that, then you're giving your child a language of feeling, if you will, for their experience. So it's like twofold. You got to do it for you, and as you do it for you, you actually get better at doing it for your child. And we want children to have that it's what I call having a language for feelings. A third, and again we've touched on this, is helping children learn frustration tolerance. Help them learn the 8 unpleasant feelings. It's another easy way to think about that, because we want them to be able to handle the disappointments and frustrations early in life, so they don't try to avoid that kind of experience later in life, whether it's in relationship or it's going out for something they really want to pursue, and they don't do it. They don't take that risk because they won't do it perfectly first, or they won't, whatever it might be. And this whole idea of being perfect is actually difficulty tolerating disappointment and frustration. And then the other thing that's really kind of much more nuanced is helping boys. The tendency is to teach boys that allowing that kind of, I think of like what I call an anger hurt continuum. And we allow boys to learn anger, and they get shifted away from disappointment and sadness. So as a parent, what I would watch for is when your boy is expressing more anger, but doesn't go to, if you will, the softer, more vulnerable feelings of sadness and disappointment. And I would help that boy be guided to the other feelings too. So it's not just one-sided. For girls, it's the opposite. Girls are more often taught that the sadness and the disappointment is okay, but the expression of anger or even the experience of competitiveness is not. So one of the things I would also have you do in this case is if your daughter is just, one-sided, if you will, onto sadness and disappointment, then help her access anger if anger might be an appropriate feeling to have in whatever the situation was. So it's a little nuanced, but I just think it's super important to talk about that stuff so that, again, that both boys and girls, or your sons and daughters, can have that wide range of feeling experience and not just be caught up at one end of the continuum. So I just wanted to kind of highlight a few extra pieces in there.
I love that. I'm so, you can take as much time as you like, because I love listening to you, Joan, and learning from you. And, you know, I think you're such a gift to the world, and I'm so glad that you wrote this book. You know, and I'm so glad that we can share it today, and, you know, continue to share it, because this is really something that we all need.
Well, please know how meaningful my exchange with you is. I'm so grateful for the work that you are doing in the world as well, and it's like unparalleled. And so I feel both honored and I feel blessed, Dr. Song.
Well, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in May. So we'll get a hug in then, because I missed you in the winter.
Awesome, good.
All right, well, guys.
But you missed me for good reason.
So I'm going to go through, guys, and put in the links for Dr. Joan's book, how you can find her website, her social media sites, and also her Facebook group, the Life Love Your Life Facebook group. So all that's there. You guys don't have to search and Google and do any of that. I'll just put it up right now. And I think that we went through all the questions, but if we didn't, I'll go through and you know, try to answer them for you, or maybe even give a shout out to Dr. Rosenberg to enlist her help too. So,
absolutely, right. I'll come back anytime for you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Joan Rosenberg, and thanks you guys for sticking with us and being with us tonight. And this is going to be up. The recording is going to be up shortly, so that you can listen to this, share this with your friends, share this with your family members, aunts, uncles, teachers, whoever needs it. So it'll be there in just a little bit. So, all right. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye, Joan. Have a good night.
Bye.
Okay. I'll talk to everyone soon. Bye.